I think it's time that we finally close this case. Who is Bonnie's true killer? Welcome back to another FNAF theory, and today we're revisiting my very first theory on the channel. Who is Bonnie's killer? Now, why am I going back and revisiting the very first theory I've done on this channel? Well, I got it wrong. I had a lot of fun making that first theory, and all the evidence that I found still feels really solid, but the conclusion falls very flat. I mean, come on, I pinned the entire thing on a singular Mopbot. Mopbot, who's tired of cleaning up the messes, attacks Bonnie. So I think it's time we prove old Mopbot's innocence and find out who Bonnie's true killer actually was. And no, I don't think Monty did it. I still think he's innocent. So let's reopen this case and find out who truly took out Bonnie. Let's start with the evidence that we find at the crime scene. First off, we find Bonnie in ruin behind the bowling alley, which contradicts what we've read from the notes in Security Breach that says his last whereabouts were at Gator Golf. We also find Bonnie with a lot of damage to his body. All of his limbs are broken, there's a massive hole in his chest, and what the killer left behind was green paint. We can also find a few pieces of evidence surrounding Bonnie's body. We can find a broken bowling ball near Bonnie's head, which was presumably used to help destroy Bonnie. We can find 4 wet floorbots surrounding Bonnie. We can also find a few broken staff bot pieces near Bonnie, and we can find Bonnie on an old rug. Now, what's interesting about this rug is that the design is only found in a few locations in the Pizzaplex, one of them being in Gator Golf. Now, hang on a second. I thought I said Monty was innocent in all of this. A lot of the evidence seems to be pointing towards Monty destroying Bonnie down in Gator Golf, wrapping him up in a rug, and taking him back up to Bonnie Bowl in order for us to discover him in ruin. Now, besides the fact that lugging an entire corpse to the opposite side of the Pizzaplex without getting noticed is nearly impossible, there's just a lot more evidence that I haven't covered yet. You see, one piece of evidence that made a lot of people think that this case was just open and shut was Monty's claws. The claws that Monty had and previously Bonnie had were given to them as tools so they can precisely pluck the strings of their bass guitars. The only reason any animatronic should have these claws is because they play the bass guitar. And the only reason that Monty gets the claws is because Bonnie went missing. This would mean that Monty wouldn't have the claws at the time of Bonnie's death. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Monty couldn't do the damage to Bonnie without the claws, as we've seen the staff bots do similar damage to Freddy, but it does make it a lot harder for Monty to do the damage to Bonnie by himself. There's also a number of reasons as to why there's the green discoloration on Bonnie's body after getting attacked. The first reason is the reason that everyone thought of, that the coloring comes from the attacker having green on their body. The second reason, while I think is less likely, could still be true. Bonnie's original jumpsuit color could have been green, meaning that the attacker could have chipped away at that first layer of paint, revealing the original green coloring. The third reason, which is something that I brought up in my last video about this, was the Monty Mystery Mix, which is a bright green color that matches Monty's skin color. And do you know where you can find the Mystery Mix in Security Breach? It's found in Bonnie Bowl. Why is something that's Monty themed and pizza flavored found in Bonnie Bowl? The notes that we can find say that Chica can't control herself around the mystery mix, which is why it eventually gets recalled. But if it's getting recalled, why not throw it out? Why are you keeping it in Bonnie Bowl? I'm gonna take this off. All these notes that we can find around Security Breach about Bonnie going missing, Monty replacing Bonnie, Chica in the mystery mix, and whatever else that we can find, led me to believe that it was somebody in the company who did this to Bonnie. Before we continue with our suspects, I just wanted to remind you guys to hit the subscribe button down below so you get to see more of my content in the future. Over 97% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so hey, give it a shot. It's free, it really helps out the channel, and if you don't like it, you can undo it later. At the time of making the first video, I only had a handful of suspects that I could choose from that work at Fazbear Entertainment. We had the main band of Freddy, Roxy, Chica, and Monty. We have the daycare attendant, we have Vanny, and if you really want to include them, we have Burn Trap. The most promising suspect out of all of them seemed to be Vanny. She had the intelligence in order to frame Monty for the crime in case somebody actually found the body. She also had the staff bots at her whim, and we've seen the staff bots do similar damage to Freddy, and she's under Glitchtrap's control. Not to mention that the Vanny mask makes you completely invisible to some animatronics, and it could do something similar to the cameras that are monitoring Bonnie on the night that he went missing. If we do believe Monty Golf to be the last place that Bonnie was before he died, Vanessa could have easily done the damage in Gator Golf, put the mask on so she was invisible to the cameras, and then moved Bonnie back to Bonnie Bowl. The only thing is, I don't think Vanny did it. She really doesn't have a reason to do it unless she was told to destroy all the animatronics. But Gregory does that. While doing research for this video, I came to the conclusion that Gregory is still under Glitchtrap's control, and that's why he destroys all the animatronics in the Pizzaplex. And if that's the case, that could mean that Glitchtrap had somebody else destroy Bonnie. So what if that person was Cassie's dad? Now in Ruin, we do hear about Cassie's dad, but we don't hear a lot. We hear that he's a fast technician, and of course that he's Cassie's father. But in Help Wanted 2, it's theorized that we're playing as Cassie's dad, and we hear a lot more about him. Like, he was one of the few people to put on the Vanny mask. You know, the Vanny mask, the one that once you put it on, you give Glitchtrap direct access to your brain, the one that Gregory, Vanessa, and Cassie all put on and become servants to Glitchtrap, the one that Cassie's dad also must have put on. And Cassie's dad has such a connection to Bonnie that many people, including myself, believe him to be the Bonnie bully from back in FNAF 4. I mean, his favorite animatronic is Bonnie. He finds the Bonnie mask in Help Wanted 2. And if he's under Glitchtrap's control and Glitchtrap wants him to prove himself, the ultimate proof Glitchtrap needs is for him to kill Bonnie. Cassie's dad fits all the criteria that we would need for this. He's a Fazbear Entertainment employee, so he would know where things are, like the Monty Mystery Mix. He's constantly putting on and taking off the Vanny mask. He has access to the staff bots, similar to how Vanny does. He can also destroy animatronics very easily, like Gregory does. And his favorite animatronic is Bonnie, so he can prove himself to Glitchtrap by destroying Bonnie. After all, destroying your favorite animatronic from back when you were a kid is probably the best way to prove your allegiance to a psychotic program that wants to take over your mind. That is, if you didn't have a kid. Let's take a look back at all the pieces that we've collected and put them all together and see if it truly is Cassie's father who killed Bonnie. Cassie's father is a Fazbear technician at the Pizzaplex, but he's been slacking off on his job for a little bit. You see, he's been finding these arcade cabinets labeled Princess Quest. Across the Pizzaplex are a few Princess Quest arcade cabinets that Cassie's dad gets addicted to the point where he believes that the princess is trying to send him on a mission. Unfortunately for Cassie's dad, the arcade cabinets seem to be attached to Glitchtrap, and he seems to be getting more control over Cassie's father. Cassie's dad, believing that he's on some mission sent by the princess, obeys completely until it gets to the point of destroying his favorite animatronic, Bonnie. He hesitates for a minute. Can he really destroy his favorite animatronic? But he has to go through with it. He has to obey the princess. He has to find the end of his quest. And so Cassie's dad sets up a trap. He wants to lure Bonnie into the Monty Golf area so he can have him disassembled by the staff bots and then make it look like it was Monty's doing. After destroying Bonnie and framing Monty, he realizes that what he did was wrong and decides to cover up the entire act by taking Bonnie back to Bonnie Bowl and locking him in a room where no one will find him. He ties the Bonnie animatronic to the wet floor bots that are scattered across the Pizzaplex in order to make sure that Bonnie doesn't truly die. And Glitchtrap is upset with this. Glitchtrap had given Cassie's dad one easy task in order to prove himself: kill the rabbit. And since Bonnie was still alive, Cassie's dad had failed. But luckily for him, Glitchtrap had one other way he can prove himself. Kill Cassie. Cassie's father uses the last bit of sanity that he has left and tells Glitchtrap that he won't do it. And Glitchtrap doesn't like that answer. Glitchtrap gets Vanessa to call the all-staff meeting. The meeting where Vanessa kills all the Pizzaplex employees, including Cassie's father. You see, Glitchtrap has a very special plan for Cassie's dad. He disobeyed Glitchtrap's orders twice now, so he's going to make sure that he never forgets. You see, Glitchtrap doesn't want Cassie's dad to die. No, that would be too quick of a punishment. Why not trap him inside a staff-bot body and force him to watch his own daughter pick up the mask that got him into this insanity in the first place? And that is the end of the theory.